Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning, Jeannie Ives, former state legislator and gubernatorial candidate, now the principal at breakthrough-ideas.com, and also the host of The Real Story with Jeannie Ives on these airwaves on Sundays. So, you want to be patient when a new administration takes over and you get your personnel in place. So you want to be patient, but with rogue agencies, there's a particular rogue law enforcement agencies, as I would argue the FBI was under Jim Comey, and Andy McCabe and Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, and I could go on, but you get the Andrew Kleinsmith, but you get the picture. You have a little less patience. You want to see evidence of culture change just as soon as possible. And it's not a criticism of Kash Patel, not yet. But there is some sort of unsatisfactory or concerning dragging of the feet on things like the Epstein files that are supposed to be made public. And then there was this incident over the weekend, this bombing of a fertility clinic in California. The suspect is a 25-year-old pro-mortalist, a follower of Ephilism. You know what Ephilism is, Jeannie?
Well, I read the article, found out what it is, but yeah, that's the only reason I knew.
He believes that sentient life is a curse and needs to be destroyed. That's what Ephilists believe. Ephilism comes from life spelled backwards and ism. See what they did there? Isn't that clever?
They're so smart. Maybe this is the James Comey version of how to cryptically code what you want.
Yeah, something like that. So the FBI was unwilling to disclose information as to motive. But, I mean, like our friend Carol Markowitz, who writes at the New York Post, and other people dug in because they have the internet too. And they found, like bits and pieces of a manifesto. For example, he said, the words of the suspect, I think, and by the way, one person was murdered. I think we need a war against pro-lifers. So you know that the D.C. press corps is going to memory hole this, just like they memory hole did their best to, the Covenant school shooters manifesto. It talks about being a Satanist. Did you ever think maybe the Bible is just slander against Satan and that Satan just realized what a creep your God is? So you have the anti-natalists who make the case that you shouldn't have kids, and then the pro-mortalists like this guy make the case that it would be better if mankind was eliminated post-haste. And so he set about to do that by allegedly committing an act of terror by bombing this fertility clinic. And yet we don't get these sorts of disclosures from DOJ or FBI. We get stonewalled, much like it's in the immediacy. I get it. Provide some birth. But but we're a little gun-shy about being stonewalled because of being stonewalled for years and years and years by previous administrations. By the way, on the Epstein matter, some of our conspiracy theorist friends, and I am not in that camp, will be disappointed to learn that Kash Patel told Maria Bartiromo over the weekend, suicide.
Yeah.
Unequivocal. Bartiromo pressed them, though, Kash and Bongino, on accountability and information as to the 2 Trump assassination attempts during last year's campaign. That was this exchange.
With all due respect, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I've been demanding accountability for many, many years. You mentioned Comey, Strzok, and the rest. They've got TV shows. They've got media platforms. They're fine. There's been no accountability.
Well, look, it's a fair criticism, but what I will tell people is we weren't here in the FBI in the last 5 years when we had statute of limitations that were still in play, where we could have investigated criminal conduct. Most of these statute of limitations are 5 years old, and we will investigate criminal conduct where we find a righteous case to do so, and the law and the facts allow us to. But a lot of it we're precluded from. So we'll take the criticism, and it's rightfully so, that could we have done more in the past? Sure, people before us could have. But what we can do now is continue to put out the documents and the information that these people withheld from the American public. And I'm just telling you right now, as much as we know about Crossfire Hurricane, he and I just found out more last week. And we're continuing to work with Congress to put those documents out. That's how vindictive and vicious the former leadership structure here was. Not only did they bastardize the FISA process and lie to the American public, they withheld and hid documentation and put it in rooms where people weren't supposed to look. And it's a good thing we're here now to clean it up, and you're about to see a wave of transparency.
What do you mean?
Just give us about a week or two.
Okay. Well, I can tell you right now that...
Yeah, so a week or two, and then
that.
a wave of transparency is coming. I mean...
Is there a statute of limitations on treason?
No.
Okay.
I don't... Yeah, well... I mean, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so that's the thing. Like, you know, I'm always happy to get more information, but if it's just more information and furtherance of the overwhelming evidence as to the illicit activities of Comey's FBI with respect to the Russian collusion hoax, and there's no penalties to follow, then it's going to be pretty unsatisfying, isn't it? On the assassination attempts, they sort of said, well... we have, Bongino said, we've got a case pending, so we can't talk about, we don't want to provide any information that could jeopardize a pending case. Well, okay, well, that's in the Doral one, but what about Butler, Pennsylvania?
Right.
Where there isn't a prosecution pending. For more on all this, please be joined by James Gagliano, retired FBI supervisory special agent, doctoral candidate at Homeland Security at St. John's University. He also served as mayor of the village of Cornwall-on-Hudson in New York. James Gagliano, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan and Jeannie, how are you? Good to join you this morning.
Good to have you with us again. So am I wrong to be anxious about disclosure and accountability and whether it's related to Epstein or related to Comey or related to assassination attempts?
No, I don't think you are, Dan. And I understand your concerns, and you've been beating this drum for a long time, and I don't take any issue or exception to what you're saying. I think what the new director, Kash Patel, and the deputy director, Dan Bongino, are dealing with right now is the fact that when you're on the outside looking in, it's easy to see things that are broken and say, oh, my gosh, do this. It's the difference in politics, and I'm going to put on my political hat for a second, between campaigning and governance. Now, I am an agnostic on both of them. I'm going to give them a chance. I believe that they are committed to transparency, but I also believe that both of them. Now, Kash was a former public defender, as well as a former DOJ attorney. Dan was a Secret Service agent. Dan was also a member of the NYPD. But the FBI is a wholly different animal, and I think it's going to take time. And listen, I listened to and watched Maria Bartiromo's 40-something minute interview with them this weekend. I think it's going to take some time, and I think the people that are coming out right now with the long knives and going, my gosh, they haven't done what they promised to do. And you know me, I'm not a nuanced guy, but I think you've got to apply a little bit of give them some time, because it's not just them making these decisions, it's also the Department of Justice. Yeah,
that's a fair point. That's a fair point. With respect to Comey, we were just talking about it, get you to weigh in on this. You know, the arranging of seashells by the seashore, 8647. I mean, just that guy's continuing approach to political discourse, and I mean, you're never going to separate him from the FBI. That's how people know him, and I just wonder what FBI vets think of Jim Comey's ongoing antics.
Now you're going to get the real Jimmy Gagliano. So I served under 4 of the now 9 Senate-confirmed FBI directors in the FBI's 117-year history. James Comey was the last one that I served under when I left and retired in 2016. I wrote a piece for The Hill back in 2018, and it was called The Insufferable Hypocrisy of James Comey's second act. When James Comey was fired by Donald Trump, I gave him the benefit of the doubt in 2017. I did. What I've come to find out since, and which many of us, because you're asking, hey, Jimmy, what's the take of, retired FBI agents, and even some of those that are still on duty, we're not a monolith of ideas. However, he is the most moralistic, sanctimonious, narcissistic hypocrite in history. I'm embarrassed by him. I'm ashamed by him. And look, in 2018, when he was a sympathetic figure to many people on the left, guys, he showed up at the Aspen Ideas Conference and was interviewed by Katie Couric when he was promoting his book at the time, a laughably titled A Higher Calling. Mm-hmm. Now, when James Comey was there, Couric asked him point blank, what do you want your legacy to be? And guys, he laughably said, gosh, I really just wish to be forgotten. He's done everything but try to be forgotten. So when you ask me what I think about him, it's not a kind review is all I'll say.
That's great. Yeah, please. I'm overwhelmed by all this attention. Please, no. That's
well,
great.
Danny, he plays the idea that he's this guy of great probity and moral rectitude and moral rectitude. But the bottom line is he's a shameless self-promoter. And look, do I know this? Am I inside his head? No. But a lot of people are suggesting he's got another book that's just about to be released, and he's out trying to hype it up. And what better way than to pretend as a guy that was a lifelong federal prosecutor, that served as the deputy attorney general, that served as the FBI director, to go, well, gosh, I had no idea that 86 might mean taking somebody out and using violence. I just don't know.
So what happened to him? There was, I think, actually a considerable amount of hope when he took the position as head of the FBI. And, boy, it turned out really bad. So,
Jeannie,
was he your worst or what? What's going on?
It's not what happened to him. A leopard doesn't change his spot. Uh-huh. He had a lot of us duped. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I bristled when he became the FBI director, and he decided to toss aside tradition. He goes, I'm not going to wear white button-down shirts and dark suits and cap-toe shoes. I think that the FBI needs to send a different message. I'm going to wear a blue shirt. Well, that's what he was focused on, and he played this roll-up that he was this Saint Comey is what we called him. And then now we find out, hey, he had a book deal in the works. One of the most shameless and disgusting things that he did was, after he was fired in 2017, he leaked a number of his memos, some of them which contain classified information, but he leaked a number of these memos to the New York Times. Do you want to know what angered me and many of my fellow colleagues the most? He didn't even do it himself. He didn't leak it himself. He gave them to his attorney and had his attorney, a surrogate by proxy, to leak them to the New York Times. That was when the bells and whistles went off for me, and I said, this guy should never have been in charge of the FBI. I mean, these are just anecdote after anecdote after anecdote of why this guy was the wrong person to be in charge of the FBI.
Well, I mean, I could listen to you tear Jim Comey apart all morning, anecdotes, but I did want to get, just since we're talking about, the guys and gals that are current or former FBI that you still talk to. So are they, are they open to the sort of culture change that Trump and, by extension, Patel and Bongino have promised? And in the first 3 months, say, is there a sense that things are improving and morale accordingly?
Well, I'll just tweak that a little bit. I don't think it's a culture change. I think it's a return to the culture that the FBI and the traditions that the FBI hewed to for, an entire century. The FBI is not perfect. The FBI has made mistakes across the years. We know about them. They've been highly publicized. It's laughable that the left always hated the FBI until the era of Trump, and now the left is looking at the FBI like the paragon of virtue. We need to get back to doing things like this. Follow the evidence, bereft of fear or favor. Don't allow for 1 second the American public, which currently the FBI holds a 40% favorability rating with, which is unconscionable. Don't let them believe that we're putting our fingers on the scale. That's what Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino say that they're committed to, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. It's been 3 months, as you pointed out. Give them a little bit of time. I think the vast majority of FBI agents and retireds, we're looking forward to that happening.
Very good. James Gagliano, retired FBI supervisory special agent and a doctoral candidate in Homeland Security at St. John's University. Also, he served as mayor of the village of Cornwall-on-Hudson in New York. James Gagliano, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country with over 35 years of helping clients navigate